Welcome to this edition of Silver Sneakers Boom Muscle. So we're into the new year, 2026, and like many people, might come up with some New Year's resolutions to change behavior, lose some weight, whatever. But I prefer to resolutions or to review my goals and my projects. Sometimes I just revise a goal I've had, like losing body fat, gaining muscle, or what you might call body recomposition. I'm going to continue that. Some of my projects, I wrote a list of things I need to continue to work on at my home and property, etc. But I have a new goal for 2026. I live in Colorado, and Colorado has its Senior Olympics in early June. And one event I've never participated in before is powerlifting. So I decided my goal this year is to compete in a powerlifting event. Not with the idea that I could win it, again, as a newbie who's not really focused on this. I'm sure there will be people my age and in my category who have been doing this for years. But it's a goal that's going to set me on some new objectives, learning some new things, improving my health, trying to maintain strength without getting injured. There's several sites on the internet if you're interested in looking up what constitutes powerlifting, some organizations that have specific rules, and the Senior Olympics do follow those rules, although they're not a sanctioned event. One rule is that you have to compete in a singlet, which is like a wrestling outfit. It goes from the legs to the shoulders, has some specific criteria for it, so it's not just any old singlet you can pick up off the internet. It's probably heavier duty and a few other things. The other thing is you need to wear shoes that are basically flat bottom without much of a drop from the heel to the toe, but are secure. They don't want people using cushioned shoes that might interfere with these lifts, particularly since they can be heavy. As I talked before, there's sort of three muscle systems you want to work on for training. One is your very short power system for like your heavy lifts, maybe 3 to 5 repetitions or so maximum. Then there's that sort of intermediate where you might go 8 to 20 repetitions, and then there's the longer endurance muscle activity, which is longer than, let's say, 20 seconds or so. Often you can continue those for quite a long time. My approach to exercising is I call those my 1-minute exercises, things I can continue for a minute. Beyond that, I don't think I'm gaining anything. And then there's your cardiovascular endurance, either intervals or longer term. I used to have a New Year's resolution of running a marathon, but I found that the shorter workouts were fine, but when you start to get into your long weekend workout, 15, 20 miles, that's not for me, and it also caused a lot of overuse injuries. So to get started, there's a few things I need to work on specifically to do powerlifting. The 3 events are a squat, bench press, and deadlift. To do the squat, you have to be able to get under a squat bar behind your neck. So that requires quite a bit of shoulder mobility, which I'm pretty stiff. So taking this wooden bar, put it behind my neck, and try and bring my elbows together. Try and get it down below my vertebral spine that sticks out. That's C7. Up onto my upper traps. And I'm just twisting to warm up. Do a little bit of forward and backward bending while I'm trying to kind of stretch out my shoulders. When you start a workout, you don't want to do too much static stretching, but you should certainly want to do that when you finish. So do a few of these warm-ups. The other lift is a deadlift. where you take the weight in front of you, it's down on the floor, try and position it about the middle of your foot, put your hips down, and you move your knees and your hips at the same time while you pull the heavy weight up, and you have to lock out your knees. And then for the bench press, typical lying down bench. But the thing that's different about it is you have to let the bar rest on your chest momentarily, which again I would say I've never trained for that. I've always stopped a little bit above my chest or so. So that's something I need to work on. So those three facets. Again, for the squat, going back, I forgot to mention it, is you have to get your hip below the height of your knee. So demonstrating on the platform, my knee is here, the top of my hip has to be a little bit below that. That's not too hard to do on the platform, but for a stiff old guy like me, getting down in that position, it's going to take some effort and then to power up out of it. So as we continue this workout, we're going to demonstrate some specific exercises to improve strength, flexibility, and explosive power for these three lifts. When we're considering the muscles that are used in the powerlifting moves, first to consider the bench press. Primarily we're working the anterior deltoids, the pectoralis, and the triceps. But it also requires a tremendous amount of core stabilization, as do all of the moves. The squat and deadlift add the components of the gluteus muscles as well as the quadriceps, but also the entire posterior chain, as well as the lower leg and ankle. What these exercises seem to lack is a focus on the upper body, on the upper back, like the latissimus dorsi, the biceps, and maybe part of the deltoids. Also, there's no rotation or unilateral movements in these exercises. So if we're going to develop a workout plan that has the goal of improving our power lifts, but also not neglecting the other aspects of our functional movement, we want to add some unilateral movements and some rotational movements, as well as some upper body pulls, such as a lat pull or some row. Maybe a good place to start that addresses both our primary moves and the extra ones that we need for full body is to start with a split squat, which is like a split lunge. So put one leg forward, the other one way back, and bend towards the floor. Have something close by to assist with balance. You don't need to use it. As you squat down, you want your anterior shin to be vertical. This reduces the stress on the knee and maximizes the effort in the quadricep. Simultaneously, this is improving some hip flexibility. And before switching to the other side, we can do a one-leg deadlift where I bring the opposite foot forward, have my support for balance, and I lift the other leg back while I lean forward and reach towards the floor. These are both unilateral movements. If you want to avoid the balance assistance, maybe put both hands down. And we can switch to the other side. The split squat. A little more forward. Bring the other leg forward and do that straight leg deadlift. You can always progress this by adding some weight, like a dumbbell or kettlebell. And again, tempting both hands, working on balance. Another thing we can work on is our ankle flexibility, doing some ankle rolls. And the dynamic stretch if I'm doing the sit back. Trying to improve the flexibility in this posterior position ankle. I notice my left side is much less flexible than the right. I fractured that ankle back in high school, so more than 50 years ago. And I know on x-ray there's a ton of sort of out of fusion, so I do what I can with it. So for someone with inflexibility in your ankles, one strategy for both the squat and the deadlift is to go into a sumo position. You can practice some of these moves. I've got the platform behind me. Kind of mark how deep I want to get. So my feet are more than shoulder width apart. Some people would suggest shoulder width half apart. Trying to keep my upper body more upright and reaching towards the floor with my hands. Trying to get, if I can get low enough to touch my support without a lot of forward bend. This is an acceptable stance for both the deadlift and the squat. It emphasizes more of the inside muscles in the legs than traditional squat. You can also practice a prisoner squat, putting your arms above your head or behind your head, trying to increase that shoulder mobility, which is going to have a tendency to want you to hinge forward, but you really want to stay pretty upright as possible doing a prisoner squat. You can always progress these by lowering the support or removing it entirely as you get more used to these moves. One exercise I like to do to start improving my ability in these moves is a straight leg deadlift with dumbbells combined with a shrug. So I got my dumbbells and I have my knees slightly bent, hinge forward, bring the dumbbells somewhere below my knees, stand up tall, rotate out to the side and shrug. Let's move back a bit. We hinge at the hip, we keep our back in neutral, avoid rounding. Drive forward, dumbbells out, and a shrug. You notice I'm driving pretty fast on the upward. That's trying to improve some explosive power. Okay, set it down. An exercise to start with to improve bench press can be an explosive push-up. So I'm doing this on an incline. My hands at least shoulder width apart. And I'm going to go down until my chest touches. And then push up as hard as I can. You want the front of the chest to touch your support. Again, in the formal powerlifting competition, the bar has to rest on your chest momentarily. So that's an increased range of motion, and possibly the weakest part of a push-up or a bench press is when your elbows are that far extended and behind you. So you want to get used to exploding up off of that position. So down, pause, and push up hard. My goal with this is to push hard enough to where I can stand up without having to take a step. So I've got a way to go. I'll do one more. Had to do a little bit of a hip hinge, but I think got close to making it on that one. To address some of the exercises that are missing from our standard sort of powerlifting workout, I'm going to do a suitcase carry where I grab a moderately heavy weight in one arm and do essentially an action interval of walking. So you're doing my one-legged exercise, and which the stress of the weight is going to force my core to engage to keep me from tipping over. So got a dumbbell here. Just going to walk to the end of the room and back. I'm going to set the weight down, switch hands, and do that on the other side. You can repeat that with the first side if you want, or go on to the next exercise. Switching hands.
With a sufficiently heavy weight, you'll find that also is working on grip strength, also another important set of muscles. Another group of exercises that works on anti-rotation, which is a core activity, is called Palloff. Palloff has a number of variations. Basically, to do these, I'll grab a pretty stiff band, bring it to sort of mid-chest, and the standard Palloff press would be to a moderate squat, just press forward, which your body's going to want to rotate. So you have to engage your core to prevent the rotation. Another variation is to do that back lunge, like we did before, holding the band steady. If you want, you can add a forward press. And we want to switch sides. Quite a challenging advanced move. I notice I'm significantly less coordinated and strong on this when my right leg's forward. Something I'm going to work on. As I mentioned earlier, a exercise that's not really involved in powerlifting would be a lat pull or a pull-up. In this situation, I've got my bands so I can hinge forward at my hips. Get my upper body pretty close to horizontal and pull the bands down. Another band exercise I like to use, this is one without handles, is for my rear deltoids and upper back. I take the band, stretch out, remembering to keep my shoulder blades down together and hold for a couple beats. This helps open up the shoulders, again, primarily for our bench press exercise. Also strengthening the rotator cuff and the other stabilizing muscles. A variation on this is to go into a star pattern. I do the horizontal, then the diagonal, horizontal, diagonal, one group of muscles that's really quite challenging to exercise is your hip flexors. These are the exercises that lift your knee and leg off the floor. You can try and attach weights to your ankle. Try and use a kettlebell hooked under your toe. Some sort of cable variation. What I like to do is take my band and attach it around a stiff post. You can do this either on the floor. I like to use a platform, which allows, I think, a better range of motion. in one position so that when you can lay down, your leg is fully extended or straightened with a little bit of tension in the band. Then lay down and flex your hip. I find this to be quite a challenging exercise, but one for those group of muscles I don't have a better way to strengthen. Again, I notice my left leg significantly weaker than the right. I pulled one of the big adductor muscles a couple years ago that I don't think ever healed or reattached. So I have a deficiency there. I have to continue to work on trying to get some muscle balance and strength between the two sides. I hope you enjoyed this relatively short video. I'm going to continue to update as I progress learning and preparing for powerlifting, hopefully avoiding injuries, getting stronger and more lean, and see where I can go with this. Again, I think it's good to set goals for yourself, ones that are smart, so specific and measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. So I hope you set some goals for yourself for 2026, and hope you have a great year, and hope to see you again.